All right, everybody, just give me a moment. Let's get everything synced up here. Hope everybody's having a good week. All right. And last but not least, all righty, we are live. I always want to do the Brett Musburger thing. For those of you old enough to know, you are looking live. Welcome to my weekly live. I'm Dan, otherwise known as Men Need to Be Heard. And I got an interesting one to talk about today. So for those of you that don't know who I am an advocate. I speak out on behalf of men's and boys' issues. I'm also a writer. I've written for newspapers, magazines, just about done with my next book, which I'll be talking about in a little bit. And also, I host a radio program and lots of other stuff, but enough about me. That's who I am. This channel that you're watching, and I'm live on YouTube, TikTok, and Instagram all at once. I got multiple cameras going, so you'll see me looking around. And what this channel is about, as I said earlier, is I speak out on behalf of men and boys and the issues that they face. And from time to time, I like to introduce certain topics on my lives, which is what I wanted to do today. And what triggered it really, hey, Anthony, good evening to you, my friend. What triggered it for me was that I had let's just go with disagreement with a lovely lady on one of my social medias, and about basically why men are walking away. And she took quite offense to that because in her mind, men aren't walking away, women are walking away. Who cares, right? She wants to make it a contest. That's on her, right? But a point that she kept making, because I threw at her, well, what's the benefit for men to get married, right? And I actually did a whole separate video that's going on the various channels about that, because I love to challenge them on that, and say, all right, you want us to still do relationships with you, marriages, what's the benefit right now? And they inevitably, the common one I get is this, meaning they look good, which is, let's not even go there. Okay. But it was just interesting how she wanted to argue over it repeatedly. And then she went where she shouldn't have gone, because it's an area of expertise of mine, which is to claim that studies show that men are happier when they're married. And there are indeed studies that show that. I'm not disputing that, right? But if you actually go and look at those studies, and I've read numerous ones, they've got a really serious flaw in virtually every one of them. And that flaw is they will come to the conclusion, and by the way, I've seen both sides of it. I've seen where they said single men are happier, married men are happier. I've seen both sides of it in the studies, which tells you something right there. I don't think it's black and white. I think it's very gray area. Depends on the guy, right? But the studies that support men getting married will say they live longer and they're healthier. And so women love to fall back on that. And there was a study, I'm putting it in quotes because it's a very flawed study, that there was an article in Psychology Today a year ago last August, which came to the conclusion, the article did, notice what I said there, the article did, that men are lonely and because they're single, and there's an epidemic of lonely single men. And I can't tell you the number of videos I've seen on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube Shorts, various things, just jumping all over that, saying, see, it's proof. Men are miserable in being alone. But if you actually go read the study, and I did, I've read it a couple times, and I've done videos on it, the study does come to the conclusion that single men are not as happy as married. But that study has that huge flaw that I was just referring to. What is that flaw? The flaw essentially is this, right? When they ask the questions, the way they ask them leaves out a very specific subset, and they don't account for that, all right? So basically, they'll ask, are you single or married? And then they ask, what's your level of happiness? I'm really simplifying this, right? Okay, and that's fine, but that is not a determinant for overall. The flaw in that study is if they're asking, say, a 40-year-old man who's going through a divorce if he's happy, he's not going to say he's happy, right? So again, it talks about, or they don't talk about what men are going through post-marriage. And I did a video on this the other day, and where I said, if you took that subset out and moved it from the divorced side or the single side to the married side, because obviously you can't get divorced if you're not married, right? It changes everything, right? So they don't want to hear that. And I've seen that mistake made time and time again in these studies. They don't account for the true fact, and this has been, without doubt been proven, that men suffer more from mental health issues post-divorce marriage. A lot of it is attributed to dealing with family court, right? The loss of their kids and so on. When you start looking into that and you look at some of the data, perfect example, unaliving is 9 times higher for a man going through a divorce than an average man. They don't account for that in these studies. Alcoholism, drug use, mental health issues in general skyrocket post-divorce. They don't account for those in those studies. So it skews that whole argument, are single men or married men happier? So having said all that, I thought it might be fun if we all kind of just did it our own informal study, right? Not scientific, it's just kind of for fun. So what I want everyone to do is, if you don't mind, tell us, are you single or married, and are you happy or not? And if you don't want to do that, just answer the question. Do you think single men are happier or sadder? All right. It's just for fun. There's nothing scientific about it. I mean, I could drive trucks through the holes in it, right? But it would be fun to kind of just see what the average person says, because when you look at the average man and you speak to them about it, single men, and I hear from them by the thousands every week, whether it's through comments on my videos, whether it's people I speak to on the phone that I'm coaching, whether it's DMs that I get, emails that I get. Single men are pretty darn happy right now. Now, are there single men that aren't happy? You better believe it. There's a lot of them too. Don't get me wrong. But I also hear from a lot of men who are married who are not happy. More so than single, all right? Take that for what it's worth. So that's where I want to kind of go with it, have the conversation. As I said, I am live on TikTok, YouTube, and Instagram. I will be on until 5:30 on TikTok and YouTube. Instagram cuts me at an hour, guys, so I'm looking at you right now because you're on my phone. Everything else is on my computer. Jump in. A couple other things that I do ask is, and again, just for fun, if you want to let me know where you're from. It's kind of my jam. I talk about it every single week and every time I'm live. I love the fact that we can communicate worldwide with each other and have conversations like this and kind of, see different parts of the world, what they think, how they feel, that kind of stuff. It's one of the positives to the internet. There's a lot of negatives, as I always say, but there's a lot of positives too. So jump in, let me know where you're from, and what do you think? Do you think single men are happier or married men are happier? And let us know if you want. If you're single and you want to let us know you're happy or not, feel free. I would love to know. Slow Runner 1962. I'm just looking through the scroll. You're in Wilmington. Guess what? So am I, my friend. We need to chat personally. All right. So I am going to be scrolling through the different things. I'm going to jump over on YouTube and kind of start there because my good friend, the questioner, is on, and he's kind of chiming in with a few things. He's been single for 4 years, and he loves it. I'm paraphrasing on this. And he said, what keeps me away from marriage is the family court and bias against men. And that's something I hear all the time. And he goes on to say, single and happy. He has some lonely moments, don't we all, right? I get it, totally. And he's from South Carolina, so he's not too far from me. But yeah, that actually, what the questioner is saying right there is what I hear the majority of the time, right? From the single guys, is that they have their moments they're lonely. They have their moments, they have their struggles, right? But in general, they're pretty happy. And I would throw out to anyone, is there ever a time in your life where you haven't had both, right? Some happiness, some sadness. Sometimes one takes over more than the other. We've all been there, right? But it's just interesting how the paradigm that they want to create, whoever you want to label they as, is that men in general are just miserable. But specifically, single men are miserable because single men are walking away. And we'll probably get into that a little bit, but because that's what drove the conversation initially. But yeah, that's kind of where I'm at with it. So let me jump over to Instagram because I got a bunch of messages on there. I'm going to scroll through them. Don't worry, my TikTokers, you're not going to be ignored. Just jumping through the three of them. Again, I'm going to bitch about Instagram because it does all the waves, which I love, but I'm looking for the messages. So Leary Ben, I think you were on last week, right? We're happy protecting our hearts and our peace. There you go, right? That's a great comment that you made there, Ben, that's the number one thing that men are looking for is peace. And they're finding it when they're single. They are. I mean, again, there's that times you're lonely. There's that times you wish you had someone else in your life, but, they're finding it that way. Tom's got, I'm living mortgage free and self-employed as a single man. Why on earth would I ever want that ruined? Thank you, Tom, for that. Another common thing I hear, right? Men have realized, and I try and explain this to the ladies, and they get so mad at me about this for whatever reason. Men are walking away, right? Women want to make it a contest that they walked away first. Who cares? Men don't care about that because we win either way, right? Because the risk to men right now is so huge of losing everything. I talk about this frequently. If a single man is out dating and looking for a relationship, he's got less than a 25% chance of finding a healthy relationship. It's probably less than 10, but I'm trying to be generous, I guess, right? And what do I mean by that? Well, look at marriages. 55% of marriages, new data has come out, 50 to 55% of marriages end in divorce. So there's half right there. But that doesn't account for the relationships where they didn't get married and split up. And when you start factoring that in, and I just use the additional 50%, and that number's way higher, I know, that's where I come out with. You got a less than a 25% chance of finding a successful relationship. Long-term relationship. I'm not talking about short-term. I'm talking about long-term, right? Where what I define as long-term to me, 6 months or more. But we could quibble on that too. Knowing that and knowing the risk of what you could lose because of that, that's why men are abandoning it. It's sad. I don't like it. I think it's horrible. It's not good for men. It's not good for women. It's not good for society. But it's where we're at. And I'm a fan of marriage, okay? I think we should be married. Not everyone, but in general, right? I'm talking generalities here. It's for the benefit of all to be in relationships, but marriage has been gutted, utterly gutted. In my lifetime, I'm 60 years old. The last 50 years, they've gutted marriage. They being primarily the government driving it, right? No fault divorce being the primary driver of it. But again, we've created a scenario now where there's no real benefit to men when you compare it to the risk, right? And then what's happening is I'm starting to see panic coming in. And I do see it, right? You see it with a lot of women. Some of them are legitimately, they even say, I don't get this. I see videos every day from women go, what? No one, I have one that I've got queued up to do one of my response videos on where she's a wonderful young woman, I think. Very attractive, very nice, it seems. I've looked at a few of her videos. She seems like a really good catch. No one's asking her out. She said, "It's been 2 years since I've been on a date." She wants to know why. I'm going to give her the response, which I'm kind of giving you now. So, but it not that she's like, shaking or anything, but she's panicked. Like, I'm going to be alone the rest of my life. And that's what I'm seeing from a lot of women now. And to be fair to some men. Let's see some other ones on Instagram. Much more happier single. Divorced and happier. Happy until his passing. Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. So this is from married 26 years. I'm sorry. Apparently you lost your husband. I'm sorry to hear that, right? By the way, guys, there's some great marriages out there. There are. I'm not saying there's not. I'm just saying the bulk of them. All right. Indie Ruckus. I'm single and I'm lonely sometimes, yes, but I'm much happier, less stress. I sleep better. I have more money. Again, you notice the theme here. There's a lot of that similar vibe that you'll hear from guys. The same things. They say the same things over and over again. Another one. Armand DeFrank, no stress, no drama, peace of mind. Peace, 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 you're going to hear over and over again. If you're looking through the comments on the various places, you're going to see that. Peter, soon to be divorced, but miserable at the moment. Okay. I'm sorry to hear that, first of all. But again, I understand that, right? I don't think anyone going through a divorce, honest, if they're being truly honest, is going to claim they're happy. They might feel less stressed, but going through a divorce is painful. Once you get out of it, it's a different story. But yeah, again, I'm sorry to hear that you did that. Married twice, most always had a girlfriend for 10 years. This is the longest elapsed time, 1 to 2, where I've been single on purpose. I'm so much happier. That's elapsed time, 1.2 years. I'm just kind of looking at the thing. That was Kyle, and then I guess it is elapsed time. So, married for 24 years, divorced 5, happier generally. Let me just go over to my TikToks real quick. So, because I got a ton of messages there. TikTok tends to be the busiest one. So you're going to see me jumping around. But so far, almost universally, we're seeing single guys happier, right? So Anthony said getting married is finished. I agree with you. I think it is. And we've talked about that on the lives before. Gordon, divorce proceedings to walk away with 50% was hell. The juice isn't worth the squeeze. That's saying, can we retire that one, guys? I get it. I understand it. It was a good saying, but it's getting old, if I may say. Polly Waffle. There's a name. I love that one. Hi, mate. We go overseas and get women who are good. Again, you're talking about passport bros there. I've talked about that in the past. Old tree hugging your nerd. It said there. How about the sanity of single men? Again, it's the common theme that I hear. Now, again, I hear from men that are married. I hear from men that are single. Men that are married that are about to be single, like we just had, going through a divorce or a breakup. I can't put numbers to it. I'm going to say at least 75, 80% of the ones that are single are telling me they're much happier, like much happier. Of the remaining 20, 25, 30%, I would say half of them would say they're happy. Maybe not ecstatically happy, but happy. It's consistently what I'm seeing, and you're not seeing that in the studies. And remember, studies are so flawed, and I mentioned that one. There's a few of them that I know of, because I've done a lot of research on this topic. One for a book that I'm writing, but also for some other things, and we're seeing it consistently where things have changed, right? And I talk about this all the time, and it's actually going to be something I talk about in the book. I believe it or not, I have 4 books in the works right now. One is I'm just about done with. It's in my final editing. That's going to be an ebook. I'm working with one on one with my friend Squirrely Girl, 1988. I don't know if Lindsay's on. Her name's Lindsay. We are going to be doing a book on false allegations. That's going to really open some eyes. We're probably 6 to 12 months out on that, but we've started putting it together. That one's going to be amazing. I've got one coming out talking about domestic violence, what men go through. And then I forgot what it's three of the four. I forget what the fourth one is. Oh, um, the fourth one is kind of a tongue in cheek. The women's playbook and how men can work around it is that's my working title right now. I don't have an actual title, where I talk about the playbook that women run when they'll tell you you're wrong, they'll tell you you're a bad person, all of that. So stay tuned for all of those. But yeah, it's interesting to see that the feedback that I get from most guys. All right, Dorian said your name. Now what's in it? What? My Dorian over on YouTube said, "Say my name." Well, there you go, my friend. I just said your name. Anyway, let me scroll back on TikTok, and I'll catch up on the other ones in a moment, because I have hundreds of messages there. Sorry. Luke Russell, don't think I'll ever get married. Seen too many divorces happen, I'm assuming, and what goes down. Yeah, that's the thing that's driving this, I think. Alex, thank you for the heart and the pumpkin and the fire. Is that the younger generations are seeing what my generation, I'm a late boomer, all right? So you can go ahead and take your shots at me for being old. I'm a late boomer, and then there is what's behind me, Gen X. And then you've got the millennials, Gen Y, Z, PDQF, I don't really care what all the titles are, but the younger ones, I'll say the millennials back, are seeing what the results are for my generation, the boomers, who were their parents primarily, right? And now the grandparents of whatever the latest one, what is it, you guys tell me, you know better on this crap than I do. Was it Gen Z or whatever, right? They see what we went through, and it's especially, I'm seeing it more so, I think, in the 20 to 30 range than anything else. They are so turned off marriage right now. When I talk with the guys, again, I work with men, not women, so I can't really speak to the women, but I think it's fair to say they feel the same way. They are so against marriage, it isn't funny. I think marriage is done in my lifetime. Does that mean there's not going to be people that get married? No, there's going to be people that get married. But you got to remember, when I was a kid, I'm from a divorced family. My mother and father split when I was about 9 months old. I was the exception. All of my friends, like literally all of them, the mom and dad were together, right? Over time, this is when I was a young kid. Over time, that was in the 60s, 70s. In the 80s, they started getting divorced and all that. Now, I see it's the opposite, all right? Where a kid having a mom and dad in the same home who are married is the exception, not the rule. It's sad, I think. It's sad. Bain said, men married, got divorced, saw my kids get messed up by her in the courts. I'm broken, never again. There you go. All right, common thing. Slow Runner, 1962. I've seen you before, my friend. Married and happy. See, there's one for. I love that. I do. I was hoping to see more of that, to be honest with you. OMG, I tell my sons to just be friends with girls. It's easier. Wilkalaby, in the midst of a divorce, much happier. I'm just kind of scrolling. Gordon, divorce struggle for a while, but happier now, staying casual. Second marriage, not happy, neither one. This is Scar the Overthinker, single soon at 40, going to stay that way. This is the common theme we're seeing, right? Let me just kind of scroll up on the Instagrammers. If you look through the comments, you're seeing this so many times, right? And again, the researchers don't catch this, right? One of the problems with research is, and I actually just did a video on this that'll be coming out. One of the problems with research, and I've worked in that a little bit. I worked for a company that did research. I also, the college I went to, which was Siena College, shout out to them, in Loudonville, New York. Siena College does polling for, I believe, the New York Times, the Associated Press, and all that for political things, right? Who's going to run for president and all that crap. But back when I was in college, a lot of what drove that, I took a class back then where we were talking about what studies were and how they were done and all that stuff. And we tore apart various studies and read the studies and then looked for the flaws. And this is how I learned about this stuff. The common one we used to start out with was the cigarette studies. If you go, people will say to me, well, the study's been peer reviewed and science showed this. Or, well, it was done, as this woman said the other day, it was done by Harvard. Okay, Harvard's never been wrong. Think about this. All those studies you guys want to quote, go look at the cigarette ones back in the 40s and 50s. Double blind, peer reviewed, said cigarette smoking was good for you. Enough said. All right. So don't rely so much on studies. Does that mean there's not some good studies and data we can get from? Of course there is. But don't hang your hat completely on studies. The other one I throw out all the time, because I am a former trainer. Well, I still am a trainer, and I am a powerlifting coach. I teach people how to powerlift and go compete. And I have a certificate in nutrition, right? Remember back 20, that's probably 15 years ago, eggs, the study came out, eggs were horrible for you. They were going to kill you if you ate eggs. Don't eat any eggs. That study was so flawed, it wasn't funny. I tore it apart in the newspaper articles. I was on TV talking about it, but yet everybody believed it. And it was the most BS study, one of the most BS studies I've ever seen as far as like nutrition goes. All right. The data was so flawed, it wasn't funny. Now look now, eggs are great for you. And they always were, right? That's why I'm like, don't hang your hat on studies. The general rule of thumb that I always tell people with regard to studies is that they will come to the conclusion that the person who's funding it wants them to come to. And that's why when you look at it that way and keep that in mind as you read an actual study, not what the media says the study shows you, but what the media says or what the study actually says, you can kind of see it. That does not mean that every study's bad. I'm not saying that. All right. Bosco, then what is the solution for getting happiness as a man? Well, let me throw that out to you guys. What do you guys think is the solution? Because the honest answer I will give to you, Bosco, is it depends on the man. What makes me happy? I'll tell you right now. I live in a beach town, as I said, Wilmington, North Carolina. Shout out. I got 3 beaches within 10 minutes of my house, basically. What makes me happy is sitting on the beach staring out at the ocean. And I do it 5-6 times a week. Especially this time of year when the tourists are gone. I love it, right? Going for walks in the park makes me happy. Playing my guitar makes me happy. Those are things, right? Just peace, quiet. Sitting in my backyard, listening to the birds makes me happy. That's me. You might have something completely different. If you asked me 20 years ago, playing football made me happy. Working out makes me happy now, made me happy then. Those type of things. So what do you think? That's a great question. What is the solution for getting happiness as a man? Now, you're probably talking about relationships also. And again, that would vary depending on the person. So let me throw it back to you guys. What do you think? Let me just share. I'm going to jump the name because that's a long one. I'm single, 36, lonely at times, but get to do things on my own with no restrictions. Very common thing, right? Guys like that. Ladies, if you're listening or watching this, pick up on this, right? Andrew says, I'm in the middle of a divorce with a new partner, and I'm assuming happy with my life. It's very amicable with my ex, and he's from the UK. Shout out to the UK. Ian from Ontario, Canada. Let me know where you're from, too. I love hearing that. Joe Poor said his name or channel again, please. I might have missed something, but if you're asking about me, my name is Dan, and men need to be heard. If it was me. I probably shouldn't presume you meant me, but hey, whatever. James from Denver. I'm with someone who has truly made me a happy man, but after all the BS from the past, if this doesn't work out, I'm done. See, and that's the thing, right? We all... Oh, okay, Stretch gave him my name. Thank you. I'm consistently seeing this over and over again, is you see the various, ways men are putting it, but it all comes down to the majority of them are very happy being single. The ones that are single. The ones that are married, they're pretty much happy too, which is good. I love seeing that. The questioner over on YouTube, what would make me happy is living back in the woods and being an old hermit. I am with you, my friend. My best friend, who happens to be a female, by the way, I've talked about her many times. She goes hermiting at times. So her sister she lives out in Colorado. Her sister has a place up in the mountains, and she will disappear for 2 weeks up there. She can work from, virtually. She'll go up there just by herself and be happy as a clam. So it works both for men and women, right? It's kind of interesting that it does that way. Jump back over to TikTok. Firebutt, Montana. I know I'm missing people, guys, here and there. Sugar Honey, what's up from Va Beach? I had a fun story. I had a chance to move to Va Beach in 1995. The company I worked with was closing where I was and offered me the opportunity to go to Va Beach. I went down there. I was down there for a couple months because we had to train the new staff. Loved it. I was still married to my first wife at the time. This was in March and early April. I was in Va Beach doing the training. Chose to not go, and she left me the first week in May. So, funny story there in the sense that I wish to God I had moved, because I would have been the best thing I ever did. I used to live in Albany, New York. I've moved from there. I will never go back. God, I hate New York. Remember that old saying, I love New York, the old, commercial theme? No, I hate New York. Sorry about my New Yorkers. Rico, thanks for the boiling cauldron and the ICU. Male DV survivor, thanks for the tiny Diney. I love the tiny Diney. I think he's cute as hell. Ooh, there's an interesting one. Vane said, I wouldn't even do a girlfriend, just casual relationships only. I'm actually hearing a lot of that lately, right? And I don't disagree with it. And I hate having to say that. I really do. But, the old hit it and quit it. The old term in my generation was 4Fing them. No, I'm not going to explain what the 4Fs are. Well, find them was the first one. And the last one was forget them. You can fill in the middle too. So, it's, what's interesting. Hold on, I need a quick drink. What's interesting though, and this is not me saying this. This is a friend of mine who is a rabid feminist from the 70s. She's old school feminist, hates the current feminism, by the way, despises it. I've talked about her many times. One of the things she says is, we fought so hard to be seen as not, one night stands and all that stuff. And now that's what all the women are promoting. This is her, not me, right? She sees it all the time. She went off a couple weeks ago about OnlyFans, which I've never been on, but she's like, they are ruining everything we fought for 50 years ago. And I'm trying to get her to come on my podcast. I want her on so bad. She won't do it so far, but I'm going to keep working, because it would be interesting to hear an old school feminist, 70s, 80s era feminist, talk about current modern feminism and how much she hates it. I think you guys would love it. She's too camera shy. She won't do it. All right. Slow Runner 62, Wilmington. Yep. We talked about that a little while ago. So shout out to you. Kadzo from Ghana, Matt from Tennessee. All right, let me catch up a little bit. I know I'm way behind on messages, guys. Chad, I'm on my third marriage. I was more content single than married, but I was also more alone. And that's the thing, right? It's a trade-off, right? Gordon said, my best friend lives in Wilmington. Went there last year. Wilmington's the bomb. We're closed, by the way. Don't move here. I say that as a damn Yankee. So a Yankee is someone from the north, like me from New York. A damn Yankee is someone who moved here from New York, or anywhere up there. So I'm a damn Yankee, but we're full. No more room here. Might I suggest Texas or Florida? I'm joking, but anyway, it's I see more and more guys saying, I am lonely at times. And this is what we're kind of seeing. If you go through the comments here, you're seeing it over and over again. That's where I kind of wanted to go with this whole live, is to show people and give guys the opportunity to speak up. I see it on the comments on my videos all the time. And what I find interesting, fascinating actually is that I'll do a video where I talk about that. Sorry, my nose is itchy. Talk about that. And I did one a couple weeks ago that went for me viral. It's done 2 million views, right? There are thousands upon thousands of comments on that from guys going, yes, I agree, single life, I'm happy, all that stuff. And there are women on there that are just screaming, you're all wrong. They don't read the comments, or if they read them, they're just not believing them. I don't get it. I really don't. But you see that guys have woken up that they can be happy on their own. There are times you're going to be lonely. Let's be honest, right? But a lot of guys are realizing, you know what? It ain't so bad. And that's a good thing for guys, I think, in general right now, but it's a bad thing for society, I think, in the long run. Mountain goats, married 3 kids, scared for my kids if I leave, another common thing. Doug, I was married for 17 years. I love being married, but I'm happier single, right? You're seeing same type things over and over again. And that's why let's keep the comments coming, guys. All right, I'm kind of jumping through them. The questioner, what got me into the men's movement was a radical feminist fiance. What got me into it was a divorce, which is how most people get into it. All right, let me jump to Instagram. I wish to God I could do the Instagram live on the computer too. If there's a way to do it, tell me, because I don't know. Again, I got to scroll through 500 waves. Ooh, here's a good one. Chuckin' Wobblies. Like that name. I think appreciation for the things we are lucky enough for experience is key. Yes, very good point. I agree with you on that. And that's the other thing, right? So he said you ask her if she can raise a certain amount of money for her favorite charity, she might come on. Oh, you mean my feminist friend? You know what? I'll try it. She's just very, very camera shy. I mean, extremely so. She will not. She doesn't do videos. She doesn't do any of that stuff. But man, I wish to God you could hear her. And I will keep working on her. I will try the bribes. I will try any bribe. I already tried, like, I'll buy you dinner or something like that. It didn't work. But it's just funny that you see that old school feminism and they are appalled at what's going on. One of the things, let me kind of jump into that real quick. I was going to save it for later, but let me do it now. So for those of you that don't know, I do a podcast also. The show goes up on Sundays at 11. This past week, I had Ulysses on, Ulysses Butch Slaughter, and we talked about the false allegations that were laid on him and how the police showed up. He had a video go viral back in, I think it was mid-August, where he videoed the police when they showed up and all that stuff. You need to go watch that podcast because it'll blow your mind when we're talking about false allegations. As I said, I'm also writing a book on that. But this week coming up on the podcast, I have the author, the man, the myth, the legend of this book and about a half dozen other ones that I have sitting here. Warren Farrell. He is the man. He is an ex-feminist. He was on the board for the National Organization of Women in the 70s before he left. He's written numerous books. He's one of my heroes, to be honest with you. He's why I do this. And we talk about a lot of these things and why there's, we were talking specifically about the boy crisis, but we were talking about whether you're sad or happy and all that. Check that podcast out. It comes out Sunday. I had very limited time with him. He's a busy man. But he's one of my idols, and to be able to interview your idol, and he was so gracious to be able to do that. He's been on he's been on Oprah, he's been on Phil Donahue, he's been on 2020, he's been on every major news show there is. He was just on CNN, he's been on all of them, right? For him to give a little old me a little over an hour of his time, what a great man. What a generous man to do that. And it was an absolute thrill of my lifetime. Go check that podcast out. But we talk about some of the issues that men are going through and happiness and all that are related to that. All right, let me catch up on. So I'm up to date on YouTube. I am bald-headed polar bear just joined with a wave. I love that name. Bald is beautiful, baby. Um, so all right, caught up there. Let me kind of jump back over to TikTok. Um, because I got a ton of messages there. You know, I find with the lives that TikTok seems to be the busiest one. Um, but yeah, it's interesting. Again, I'm kind of scrolling through the comments real quick. I can't read them all. Um, and I'm sorry for those of you watching on other things. Questioner, you are my hero and I am your student. Oh, thank you. I'm more positive than men's activists I meet. You know, that's a funny thing. Thank you for saying that. You know, it's funny because I actually do try and be somewhat positive. I will point things out. Don't get me wrong. And a lot of the women think I'm just the most evil incarnation of man there ever was, which I kind of chuckle about. But the reality is I try and call it like I see it. If nothing else, I wear my heart on my sleeve. If I say something, I genuinely mean it. I don't believe in BSing. I don't play those games. I am as brutally honest as a person as I can be. And so that makes me feel good that you said that. And I'm glad that I am bringing some joy to your life, if I may. All right, let me catch up on here. Lots of different places. Tyson Adams, I will be much happier when I'm finished single. I'm not sure what you mean by that. Slow Runner, heck yeah. Slow Runner, we got to chat. Because if you're local, we should meet somewhere. Chat, I'm on my third marriage. I already read that one. Sorry. I'm a little behind. All right. Mr. Brock, I've had a part-time girlfriend for 3 years. It's been working out great. We don't live together. That's the new paradigm, I think. That's what we're headed for. I saw that comment and I wanted to mention it because I think from both sides, men and women, by the way, I think that's the new paradigm that we're seeing where, you know, what is it? Friends with benefits, right? Where, you know, they'll get together, you know, to bump uglies, but other than that, maybe they hang out once in a while. That's the extent of the relationship. I'm not saying it's a bad thing, but it's not the same as a committed relationship. It's just not. And if you ever have children in that circumstance, the children are going to be better off if you're together. That said, I get why people aren't, right? I totally get it. All right, Big I. Hey, buddy, Biggie. I'm going to start calling you Biggie because it's just easier to say. Have been long 4 years after the divorce, but my daughter and I have made a very happy home. Shaquille, Trinidad Tobago. I think you've been on before. Single, content, no answer. See, you're seeing the same consistent comments. I know I have mostly guys on here, but ladies, are you seeing this? Are you realizing what's going on here, right? This is one of the reasons I wanted to do this. I'm trying to kind of back things up for where we started was what triggered this conversation today is that I had a little, let's say, get together with a woman online. No, not that kind of get together, where she took me to task for a few things that I had in a video. And basically, the gist of it, her whole argument was that single men are miserable, sad, lonely little ogres living under the bridge. I'm trying to be nice here. And she fell back on that study that was done, that was talked about a year and a half ago, where it said, you know, the single lonely man epidemic. And that's why it's triggering. And I'm saying that study was flawed. Most of the studies that show that are flawed. And the reality is the people that I'm talking to, the people that I'm hearing from, what I'm seeing online consistently is showing that not everyone, but in general, men are much happier right now being single. Much happier. And I think that a lot of those studies that are out there, some of them are very old, by the way, but even the newer ones are flawed at best. And I've talked about it before. I think COVID, when we were all in the pandemic and lockdown, that was the game changer. I think, and I've said this many, many, many times, it's something I'm writing about also. I think when we were all locked down for weeks and months, depending on where you were, we weren't out and about. Men figured out, you know what? I can be home alone, play my video games, watch my sports, do whatever. Life ain't so bad. And I think it was a wake up call for guys because, in general, if I'm being honest, and I always am, guys want marriage. They want to be in relationships. Women used to be that way, and they've kind of, feminism said, nah, you don't need that. You don't need the guy. So they're further along the path, if you will. And I think now men are on the path. I don't even think they were on the path before. Now they're on it, and they're going to pass the women, I think. I hate to break it to you, ladies, but be careful what you wish for. I honestly think you're going to really see, and I talked about that younger generation earlier. They talk about it all the time. The 18 to 30 or 18 to 35, depending on which one you look at, men have walked away from relationships. Forget marriage, relationships. Just walked away from it in droves, as I often say. Michael, a.k.a. Tiger, back in 2008. That was a while ago. I chose to be a bachelor. I'm much happier. So again, you're seeing guys over and over and over the same comments. Here's a good one. Mint Goats, again, I could never divorce my wife without knowing my kids could take care of themselves. Again, I understand that. Totally get it, right? It's a common reason, by the way, why guys stay married, for the kids, right? Now, some will argue women do the same thing, and that's a fair point, but I think guys do it more because women at least know if they get divorced 90% of the time, they're going to end up with the kids, right? Guys know less than the number of men who actually get awarded sole custody varies from place to place, but in the U.S. in general, it's somewhere around 5%. A lot of states, it's less than 3%. Joint custody you'll get, but joint custody is not sole custody. There's a common misnomer there. So a lot of people will say, well, if men ask for custody, they get it. Joint custody they'll get. Physical custody still goes to mom 80 some odd percent of the time. That's the realities. But yeah. Questioner just put 8 years from now, half of women will be single by 20. Yeah, that's exactly what's going on, right? Baby Q, Kalamazoo. Hey, you made a rhyme, or I made a rhyme. Remarried, but only because I found the Holy Grail. There are some great women out there, by the way. Just did a video on that, right? Great women out there. I got one. All right. We all need to set up a single fellas cruise to Jamaica. Yeah, man. Hell yeah, I love Jamaica. I've talked about that before. I say Canadians are the nicest people. No offense to anyone anywhere else, but I love Jamaica too. Been there many times and love it. I'm in North Carolina, but maybe I should have gone to Jamaica. I always say that. Call out said great platform. Thank you. Just kind of catch. Yeah, Anthony, thanks to feminism, we all have to deal with this. And that's what my friend who's the feminist is saying is, she's single. She's 60 years old. She's same age as me. I think we're a year apart, actually. She's given up. And she's not given up because of the men. This is why I want to have her on my show so bad. She's given up because of the women. She said, got to get her on. I know she's not watching, but it's amazing to hear what she says because she's like, I've given up on dating because it's been made so toxic by the younger girls that I just have to give up because the only guys that are out there now are the players. The good guys, and I don't disagree with her on this, by the way, the good guys have walked away. They're the ones that are walking away. There's still guys that are players out there. And let's be honest, I was a player back in the 80s. I will freely admit that. I'm not bragging, all right? I was a player, all right? But she said that's the only ones that are out there now. And it's turned her off, and rightfully so, I think. What do you think on that? PJ Dinkelman, hello, my friend. Back at you. Grumpy. There's a name. I've been accused of that name. Divorced twice, now dating a woman that makes a lot more money than me, and she has more to lose. Well, golf clap. That's funny. All right, let me jump back over to Instagram real quick. much more, all right. Majority of men know it's much more beneficial to stay single. This is what I'm saying. My Instagrammers, I only got about 10 more minutes with you before it cuts me off with you guys. I'll be on until 5:30 on TikTok and YouTube. By the way, I'm here every week for 4 p.m. Eastern U.S. for those of you around the world. And I go for an hour and a half on the 2, and I'm looking to add some other ones down the road. I'm up on Rumble now, by the way. Hate it. But somebody told me I needed to get on it. I put my account up there. Rumble's, but I'll be honest with you, I'm getting some traction on it, so I guess I got to be there. But anyway, I want to add that to my lives, and then the hell's the other one I'm thinking of? There's another one I'm thinking of that I haven't been on. Anyway, Shaquille, more peace being single. A bunch of people saying single. I've been single 23 years. Never been happier. Always have money in my pocket. You hearing the theme? Mark 1980. Where are you from? I'm assuming you mean me. I just announced it earlier. Wilmington, North Carolina is where I reside. Beautiful place. Love it here. Love it. 30 years, Bosco, 30 years more and I'll become a Gandalf. I love it. Pillany Rickesty, new relationship styles. 2 single working men and women meet in a weekend. Yeah, you're right. That does seem to be the new one. We kind of talked about that a little while ago. I need a quick drink. All right, I'm just kind of scrolling through the comments here. Again, I'm asking, if you're single, let me know how you feel about it. Are you happy? Are you sad? If you're married, let me know. Happy, sad. If you don't want to tell us about yours, let me know what you think in general. Do you think single men are happier or not? Again, informal little survey, having a little fun with it. And really, I think we're consistently seeing that the single guys seem to be pretty happy, which goes against the studies, right? I think it's what we're seeing more and more. I know I am. I know consistently I am seeing this. And when I say consistently, I'm talking, as I said earlier, 3/4 of the single men that I talk to are very happy. It's amazing. And I honestly, if you asked me that 5 years ago, I would have said no way. PRV, thanks for the rose. I think it's just, again, as I said earlier, I think COVID was the game changer on all of that. Adam says hello. Well, hello, Adam. Coach said Wayman's playbook is always play victim. I assume you meant woman's playbook. I will get that book done soon. Oh, am I going to get some hate for that one? I've actually got it probably 80%. It's probably even actually more than that written. It's meant to be tongue-in-cheek, but the fact of the matter is I just take their playbook, and you'll often see me comment on videos. Oh, you're on playbook page 1, playbook page 3, because it is so consistent what they do. And I thought it would be fun to kind of put something together. I'll probably sell it for $1 because, it's not about the money that I raise. I use to fund what I'm doing here and some other things, right? Just give you an idea. If you ever buy merch, if you go to my bio in the merch store, I donate a portion of the proceeds of my proceeds from that go to domestic violence shelter for men. But yeah, it's that playbook's coming out. Stay tuned. Lots of comments again. More at peace. James, I may not necessarily be happier, but way more content. Very good take. I like that, James, because again, you can be happy single or with someone, right? It's for men, where do you find the most peace, right? Do you find peace in a relationship, a good relationship? Because let's be honest, if it's a bad relationship, there ain't no peace. But I think in general, this is what guys are seeing. Gabrielle, best wishes from Sweden. Loves my content. Love Sweden. Haven't been there. Probably will never get to Sweden because it's too freaking cold there. I am not a cold person. If I never see snow again in my life, I'll be happy. Lloyd said, hey, brother, just want to say thank you. Well, thank you for saying thank you. Smoking first time. I like that. First time viewer, serious. Is it too much to want a female to post you as you post to like? Wait, huh? Let me reread that. First time viewer, serious question. Is it too much to want a female to like post you as you post her? Schmokin, I'm not, forgive me, I'm not understanding that per se. So if you can kind of clarify what you mean, I will answer your question. I'm not, female to like post you as you post her. I'm not sure what you mean. Sorry. Coach, a lot of, yeah. Let me jump back over to Instagram real quick because our time is almost up, my Instagrammers, and I'm sorry about that. By the way, my Instagrammers, if you can tell me, is there a way to go more than an hour? Let me know. DM me because I would love to have you guys on the full time. All right. I know I've probably got a couple more minutes with you guys. For my other ones, we're going to keep going after this. Just kind of paying attention to them right now. User whole string of numbers. I am 1986. I watched my dad go through hell. I'll never get married or have kids because of it. That's a very common thing. See, that's what's happening, right? So you're about this. Well, you are the same age as my oldest son. He's not married. He's in a relationship, but he will not marry her. My other son doesn't even date. He's your classic. He's 35 years old. He's got more money than I will ever have already. He's my retirement plan. He actually, I used to be an IT director. He mentored under me. I taught him everything he knows. He then took it and ran with it. Now he runs circles around me. He makes gobs of money. Could not be happier. It's him and his dog. He's got the perfect life and loves it. He will never be in a relationship. The negative to me is I got neither one of my boys, and I have a stepson also. He is married very happily, I might add, but neither one of my boys is ever going to get married, so no one's going to pass on my name. The girls are, 2 of the 3 girls are married, but obviously they took their husband's name. I guess I shouldn't say obviously. I never cared. One thing I always say, whenever I talk with women about, well, I'm not going to take your name, I wouldn't have cared. One thing I hate is hyphenated names. There's too much freaking writing. But I always told the women I dated or married, whatever name you want to use it. I don't care. It's irrelevant to me. If you don't want to take my name, I don't care. So, yeah. Lloyd said, I'm 53. I'm free again. The 50-year-old guys they're probably the up-and-comers as far as being happy single, I would say. And maybe it's because I talk to a lot of them. Because obviously I'm 60. A lot of my friends are in their 50s. I keep reaching for my nose. It's just itching like hell. A couple more minutes over on the gram. I'm just looking. Guys, thank you for joining in, by the way, over on the Instagram. I know I'm going to lose you shortly. Jump in. Let me know real quick if you have any thoughts on the topic. Are single men happier than married men? Or are married men happier than single? Or is it the same? Or is nobody happy? I guess we should throw all those out there. Questioner just put a comment up a little while ago. If trends keep going on, we will have a population collapse. It's already happening. Japan, for those of you that don't know, Japan's population is rapidly declining. The birth rate has just plummeted. Their population is aging. They are so desperate, they're now incentivizing men to get married. They're paying them. You're going to see this happen everywhere, I think. I think Japan's just the first domino. I really do. We are in for it. Now, some will argue, and I don't want to get into it, but this is all planned. They want population to go down, they being the governments. But it's already happening. The economic collapse it's already happening. So, see, Portnoy, I can never save money when in a relationship, but I have being single this year. Yeah. I mean, for guys, dating is expensive, right? Because we're expected to pay the majority of the time. And you see, I got a video I'm working on. It's going to get me slaughtered, I'm sure. But where I'm talking about, this woman put out a list of places she won't go on a first date. There was things like Outback, Applebee's, all these, chain restaurants for the most part, or coffee dates or any of that. Stay tuned for that video. Um, Anthony, the funny thing is, women think men are worried being single or getting married women. Um, that's a very common thing that the ladies believe. And that's kind of what's driving this whole conversation today, right? Is that, oh, there it is. So, Instagrammers, I'm going to lose you in less than 30 seconds. I want to say thank you all for joining me. Come back next week, 4 to 5 for you guys. I don't know what the topic is. Check out the podcast Sunday. Warren Farrell, Dr. Warren Farrell, the guy, is going to be on, and you don't want to miss that one. So check it out. Men Need to Be Heard over on the Tube, Spotify, Rumble, all of those. So I just told you. All right. So there goes my Instagrammers. So I wish they went an hour and a half because it makes me sad, actually. All right. Let me get back to what Anthony was saying. The funny thing is, women think men are worried being single. Very common belief you see from women. And that's why I'm trying to educate them a little bit, because I'm not trying to attack them. They take it as an attack a lot of times, but I'm trying to educate them and say, be careful what you wish for, because you think guys are miserable. They're not. In fact, it's the exact opposite. And it's only going to get worse. All right, let me catch up on some of these. I'm 138 messages behind on TikTok. I'm up to date on YouTube. Questioner, jump in. I'll keep my eye out for you, buddy. Viper, eggs have been around a long time, so that's going back. This is how far back I am. That's why I was talking about that study about the eggs, right? And then right before that, science can be bought. You better frickin' believe it can, right? Science and social science. So social science would be stuff like studying, are men happier or not? Because that's not science per se. I said it before, I'll say it again, and I'll never stop saying it. The conclusion they come to on a lot of those studies is who paid for the study, what they want the conclusion to be, and they will manipulate the study. And there's a whole, not to go too far into it, but there's a whole methodology they use to manipulate the study, starting with how they ask the questions. You'll also see this, by the way, on political polls. So that's why the political polls are such garbage now with relation to the elections. You go back 40 years ago, 30 years ago, you could see a poll taken right before an election. You pretty much knew what that poll said was going to be the result. They were within a margin, usually 3, 4, 5 points. But generally it fell in the line. Now they're so far off it isn't funny, because the people doing the polling aren't asking the right questions. They're asking a question to get an answer they want to get, right? Same thing happens on some of these other studies, right? So they'll ask a beautiful one. I talk about this one many times. I've talked about it. Studies that were done in the late 90s and 2000s about child support. They were trying to get data like, are men paying, right? Even some of that in the early 90s was coming out. Who are they asking? Not the men. They were asking the mothers. Only the mothers. So the mothers were all going, nope, we're not getting child support. So they were coming up with these ludicrous numbers that guys weren't paying. It then drove Congress in 96 to change all the laws and go after the deadbeat dads. Where the whole deadbeat dad thing really started taking off. It was all bullshit. All right. Ooh, I swore. I'm going to get in trouble. Because they only asked the moms. When you ask the dads, like, yeah, I've been paying my support. I pay it every week. And then when they, one of the studies I saw that got pulled because it was finding out the truth, right? By the way, hold on. I got the book right here. Where is it? Hold on. Nope, not that one. Hold on. Bear with me, kids. I got so many freaking... I don't know if I have that one here. Hold on. No, I don't have it. Another Warren's book's really good one. Why Men Earn More. You want to see a total debunction? That's a term. Go read this book. And I defy anyone to read this book and tell me there's a wage gap. Warren dismantles the wage gap. And he does it with proof. He's not just spewing stuff. He's got dozens of studies, yes, but data to support it. But getting back to the child support, when they started asking the guys and looking at the state data, they found about 90% of them were paying on time. And the ones that weren't was because they lost their jobs. See Nobody, thank you for the TikToks. That's a first one. I haven't seen TikToks before. Jabba, thank you for the rose. I do appreciate the gifts, guys. I really do. Thank you for supporting me. All right, let me scroll back here because it way jumped ahead on me. I love the conversation you guys are having with each other. I'm kind of skipping through them. Heidi, being single is great. 60 years old. Oh, there's my favorite. The hat and mustache. Thank you, Richard. I love that. It is so goofy. I chuckle every time. Thank you for that. Heidi, 7533. Being single is great. 60 years old. See, works. Yeah. It's not bad being alone. Matt, responding to Johnny, I'm 41 now with 16 years of failed relationships. I'll probably be happier alone. Matt, one of the things I'll say to you, and this is just me, casual conversation. I don't know you or your situation really, but spend some time on your own. One of the mistakes I think guys make, and this is something that I run into with the guys I coach a lot that are going through divorce. They'll ask me, when should I start dating? In fact, I did a video on it. If you're in my Brotherhood of Men group, just so you know, that is a paid group. It is a private group. It's a group where we get together monthly. In fact, we're going to be doing our next meeting in a week and a half, the first weekend in November. We get together, we, have a beer or whatever, and we shoot the shit and help each other out, deal with problems and all that. But along that, I also do at least a weekly, sometimes I do 2 or 3, video that just goes out to them. And one of the things I was talking about recently was not jumping right into another relationship, which is something guys have done in the past. I don't think they're doing it as much now. But it was very common for a guy to get out of a marriage and then get into another relationship in months, weeks sometimes. Now, they're not giving themselves time to heal. And to be fair, women don't do that as much. There's exceptions, of course, on both sides. But in general, women will wait much longer. And I'm not judging anyone by saying that. It's just the reality, right? So to you, I would say, Matt, give yourself 18, 24 months alone and take care of you. Get out and have some, I'm not saying don't go, hang out with a friend or female friend if you catch my drift. I'm just saying don't get into a relationship. Don't commit to anything. Just go out and enjoy life. What you may find is that, that works better for you. Or you may find, I need to focus on me for a bit, heal up, get my shit together. This is stuff I talk about with the group. Because one thing about that private group is we all hold each other accountable. Well, it's very supportive, but it's also accountable, right? Which is what I love about it. But anyway, Johnny, I'll be eating a sandwich alone on Thanksgiving. It's tough. So thank you for saying that and talking about that, Johnny. Holidays are tough, right? I can tell you right now, after my marriage has ended, I spent a few holidays alone. I hate the holidays now. I despise them with every fiber of my being. I used to love Halloween and Christmas. I was the guy. Clark Griswold had nothing on me as far as decorations, okay? My neighbor across the street and I had battles for years who had the most lights and decorations. My lawn was covered and all that. Halloween was the same. I despise the holidays now because of what you're talking about. Because my kids were with my ex, right? I went years. In fact, the last time I've been together with all of my kids, now mind you, they're adults now, so it's different. But the last time I had all of my kids together for a holiday was 2006. It's the last time. So I get what you're saying. My advice to you, Johnny, and to anyone that is going to be alone is reach out to others and make your own quote unquote family. So I have a friend who's local that is going through a divorce, and I've already invited him for Thanksgiving, and I'll invite him for Christmas. Now, he may be with his kids, and that's fine, but I told him the door is open. I don't want you to be alone, right? If you find you're going to be alone, because he doesn't know yet what's going to happen, he's supposed to have his kids on at least one of the two holidays or for part of the both days. But don't be home alone, my friend. Come to my house. You can come hang out. We'll watch football. We'll have dinner. We'll enjoy it. All right. And for those of you that do have family or are in a relationship and you know a guy is single, someone like Johnny, don't leave him sitting home alone on Thanksgiving. Reach out to him. Now, some guys will say thanks, but no thanks. And that's okay. That's up to them. But you will find it's the toughest time. It's when unaliving skyrockets. You know, it's the tough time of year for me because I get a lot of guys who will reach out to me at that time. And I do a video every year at Christmas talking about this and at Thanksgiving. And I'll be doing one this year, excuse me. If someone is sitting home alone, reach out to them. Another one I'll throw out and has nothing to do with what we're talking about here, but elderly people, don't leave them home alone either. Your neighbor down the street. Back in the day, so this is 25 years ago, my ex-wife and I would have Thanksgiving dinner. We always hosted it. She worked at a university. There were kids that would stay at the university over Thanksgiving weekend because they didn't have a place to go home, right? She used to bring 3 or 4 of them home, and they would have Thanksgiving dinner with us. That's what we need to do. So if you're a guy and you need a place to go, reach out to people. I know it's hard to do that, but if you're someone who knows a guy, reach out to him also. And if you're a guy, reach out to other guys. Sit down and watch. I don't know who the football games are this year. Just watch football. Don't be alone as best you can, right? And if you need to be, that's fine. If you want to be, that's fine. But that's what I'm saying. Christy Paints. I was happy alone, but friendship, I'm still happy. Chill is, I can't say the word. Well, I can, but I won't. I got about 15 more minutes. Caught up, so I'm gonna catch up on on TikTok. So much better off. Unlike women, men are not designed to be putting ourselves first. Civilization is the proof. Yes, but I agree with you. But I think it's changing, and it needs to change. It's something that I actually, the one book that I'm just about finishing, which is about domestic violence and what men go through. It's a short book, but it's a book. One of the things I talk about is, I call it the Titanic paradigm, women and children first, right? Men have done that for eternity. We have always put women and children ahead of ourselves. Men are disposable. We view ourselves as disposable. We're trained to think that we are disposable from the time we grow up. From the time we're little boys, and Warren Farrell talks about that in this book in particular, right? And we talk about it on the podcast that's coming up. That's why it's on my brain. How young boys are taught to be quote unquote heroes, and they get rewarded for being heroes. So if a man goes off and fights in a war, he becomes quote unquote hero, right? He's going to be much more likely to get the girl, the high school jock, right? It's always the damn quarterbacks that get the head cheerleader. It's never the linemen that get them, right? Because they're the quote unquote heroes. Although these quarterbacks won't be able to do shit without us linemen. Just saying. You get my drift, right? So yeah, it's what we've done to ourselves. That said, I think men are waking up and going, you know what? I'm every bit as important as any woman. And we need to be that way, guys. We need to be. It's not that we're putting women down, but how are we any less important than any woman? Sorry, we're not. We need to stop the Titanic paradigm, as I call it. Does that mean we don't take care and protect and all that? No, it means we still do that. But it doesn't mean necessarily that we, give up our seat on the lifeboat. And I'll give you an example that I've used. Let's say you've got a 70-year-old woman. She deserves to live. I'm not saying she doesn't. But let's say you've got one seat left. You've got a 70-year-old woman, and you've got a 25-year-old single dad of 3 kids. The current paradigm is save the woman. think about it from a logical perspective. Who's the better option, right? I'm not knocking the woman, but under the Titanic paradigm, they would have saved her and let him die. And it happened. There's actually instances of that. That's what I'm talking about. It doesn't make him bad to take priority, and we need to kind of focus on that. And I think it's starting to change. Joab said, "You create happiness by doing good, useful, self-growth, and enjoyable things for oneself." Exactly. I couldn't agree more. And I talked about what the things are for me. My peace, if you will, because that's also part of peace, is sitting on the beach staring at the ocean, or sitting in my backyard listening to the birds, or working out, or playing my guitar, or whatever, right? All right, let me just kind of catch up on the scroll. I'm like, I keep catching up and then I fall behind again. Randy, I hate being single, but the pain of being left and abandoned just isn't worth it. Randy, you're not alone with that thought. That's where I think most of the younger guys are now. Older guys like myself, I think, are already there. I think you guys are getting there. And this is one of the reasons I have this channel, is just to kind of educate the younger guys, right? I do my advice from dads. In fact, I got the next one coming out tomorrow, where I take questions from younger people and answer them, like give them advice as if I was their dad. And one of the question for this week is, do I think that men and women can still be in relationships? And yes, I do. I'm adamant about that. I do. But we also have to, as men, go into it with our eyes wide open. No more of this, it's going to be great. No, she's not like those other women. Bullshit. All right. Not saying don't get in relationships. I'm not saying don't get married. I say if you choose to do that, and it's up to you to choose that, go in with your eyes wide open and the realization that if you get married, 50-50 at best, that you'll have a long marriage or a happy marriage. And that's at best. Right? But yeah, I get what you're saying, Randy. I hear you. I really, really do. All right, let's see where we at. We got about 10 more minutes. Let me just scroll back because I jumped ahead in there. Matt asked info on the private group. So if you go up in my, thank you for asking, Matt, because you kind of let me plug it now. If you go up in my profile, you'll see the link tree under my bio. And in that is links to the Patreon, because it is on Patreon. It's called the Brotherhood of Men. You can join you can support me for $1 a month, but to get into the group, it's $5 a month. That's all. And then we get together periodically. I do the individual videos in there. You get early access to some videos. You can email me and ask me questions. A lot of the advices from Dad that I get come through that. A lot of the, almost all of the private videos that only go to that group are from something that's happened within the group that I talk about. It's one thing you will get from me is honesty. As far as, I'm not going to BS you. I'm not going to tell you what you want to hear. I'm going to tell you what you need to hear. And you need to know that, right? If you're looking for someone that's going to rah-rah you up and kumbaya you and say, it's going to be all right, I know you're in family court and she's taking away your kids, but it's going to be all right. No, I'm going to tell you, look, it sucks, all right? But here's what you need to do to get through it. That's what I'm going to do for you, all right? That's what we all do for each other. That's why I love the people that are in there, because we do that for each other. It's why there's no women in it either, because they wouldn't be able to handle it. One thing about us guys, we tell it like it is, don't we? All right, every once in a while, TikTok jumps me ahead, so I was at a spot and then I lost it. Here's one. So I'm 28. Do you suggest me to marry? Again, let me talk about that, because I kind of talked about it already, but I'll hit on it again. I can't tell you one way or the other whether you should get married or not. All right? I don't do that. Do I think marriage is a bad deal for men right now? Yes, I do. Do I think men shouldn't get married? No, I don't. I think they need to go into it with their eyes, as I just said 5 minutes ago or 3 minutes ago, wide open. There are some fantastic women out there. There are some opportunities for fantastic marriages, lifelong marriages. All right. But if you focus only on that and not the realization that better than half of them end up in divorce and that your life's going to be hell, um, again, I can't answer for you. You have to answer that for yourself, and that's what I do in my groups. Right? Is that's the conversations we have. Is just saying that stuff like that. So hopefully that answers you. Again, I can't answer for you. I will never give you a solid answer as far as tell you to go get married or don't get married. I don't believe in that. Same thing with things like when we're dealing with family court issues. There's nothing cut and dried because every one of us is different. Whether you should do anything is unique to you. I'm not a believer in hard and fasts. I'm not. We live in a black and white society, and I'm not talking about race here. I'm talking about people either believe it or they don't, whatever it might be. And there's no in between. There's no gray area, right? Look at politically. You're either one side or the other. There's nowhere in the middle. I'm in the middle, all right? I'm a libertarian. I'm in the middle completely, right? I see problems with both sides. I see good things in both sides. To be honest with you, the majority of it's a bunch of BS. But I'm the exception. So many people are polarized themselves. It's the same thing in life decisions. There's always gray areas, and we need to understand that. All right, let me catch up on that. Maddie said, hold on, I totally want a motorcycle. It's a bucket list item to ride to Sturgis. If you don't have a motorcycle, go get one. I had one. Well, I sold my motorcycle finally 2 years ago because I wasn't riding it anymore. I rode a motorcycle for 50 years. I started riding it at like 8 years old on dirt bikes, and up until I actually sold it about a year and a half ago. I was 58. I'm done with my motorcycle for now. That said, I may get a trike. The reason I did is my hips were just not able to handle it. If you want to get a motorcycle, if it's on your bucket list, go do it. Don't wait. If you want to go to Sturgis, it's fine. It's an awesome thing. If you want to go to the Daytona bike thing or Americade in upstate New York, I live near there. Go do it, my friend. This is the one thing I tell guys is stop waiting, go do. Stop talking, go do. Getting a license on a motorcycle is very easy in most states. You can go take, I was offered to teach the class because there's a class they run through the motorcycle safety program in New York. You go Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and you have your license, right? You're not ready to ride, okay? But you can have your license, and then you can go buy a motorcycle and ride it. But you need to be with someone. Travis built a chopper. There you go. See what I mean? Remedio, watch the movie Stowaway. It reverses the general roles. I have not seen that. I'll have to check it out. Johnny, don't wait, Matt. Do it. Exactly. Life is short. Get it freaking done. I love it. Love that you guys are doing that. See, this is what happens in the groups. Matt, I had a widowmaker heart attack last year, so I know life is short. Well, one, I hope you're healthy, Matt, and God bless that you're here. But to your point, amen, brother, right? Get it. Don't wait. Go do. You never know. I'm 60 years old myself, and I'm starting to hear friends that I went to high school are serious health issues. Somebody I went to high school with, I just heard has cancer, terminal, you just don't know. We could have I'm 60 years old. I could have another 40 years on this earth. I probably got somewhere around 15 to 20. I'm living the dream right now. I will worry about 15 years from now in 15 years. I take it day by day and I get out and do what I love doing, which is this a lot of the ways. All right, let me kind of scroll up, catch up a little bit. I love that you guys are chit-chatting with each other. Johnny said, Matt, do you like gun shooting? Is a good sport to make friends with. That's a great point, right? So, yes, that to Johnny's point, find something where there's other guys. So I don't know if you guys can see my dog Maggie's right there tearing apart the bed. Shooting is a great way. If you go to the range, even if you don't know anybody, hanging out at the range, talk to the instructors or the range masters. They'll hook you up with guys. It's a blast to go shoot. I have friends I go shooting with all the time. It's a blast. Love it. it's guy stuff, so to speak, right? It could be anything like that. It could be I used to play football. Go join when I got older and couldn't play in, the bigger leagues, the arena league and all that. Go join a flag football. I walked up. So I've told this story before. Let me tell it again real quick, just for Johnny and Matt. I loved playing football. I got into my 40s. I wasn't going to be able to play anything organized, right? So I went to the local flag football. All right, they played at a local park. I went down one Sunday where they were playing. Walked around, shot the shit with some people. Hey, you looking for any players? I had 3 teams say, come join us. So I just picked one at random. They called themselves the Bad News Bears. Joined the team, made very fast friends with all of them, and had a blast. And I literally just put myself out there. That's the point I think Johnny's making to Matt, and Matt, I'm making to you. Just get yourself out there. What is it you like to do? It could be golf, shooting, football, whatever, darts, whatever. Just put yourself out there. There's groups on Facebook. I assume they're still there. I don't do Facebook anymore. There's groups, meetup groups. There's meetup used to be a thing too. I don't know if that's still around, but yeah, stuff like that. Jacked up. Hey, buddy, rebuilding a 73 Triumph Spitfire. Oh. Dude, do I get to ride it too? So Daniel, I bought a 2007 Boulevard. My last bike was an original Boulevard from '04. Suzuki Boulevard, man. That thing, I had a ball on that bike. That's the bike I just sold. I had that bike, 17 years, 18 years, somewhere, let's call it 18. 18 years. Loved that bike. It had, I don't know, a couple 100,000 miles on it. Love the Suzuki Boulevards. A lot of people thought it was a Harley, which used to crack me up. I burned rice, not oil. Those of you that are bikers and know what the joke is. Matt said, I definitely love guns, have my fair share. Ammo is so expensive, though. Not anymore, my friend. I can't get too far into it because they'll chop me, but you can get 9 mil pretty cheap, just saying. 22 is pretty cheap. That's what, I always tell people, if you want to go to the range and just have fun, get a 22. 22 is dirt cheap, the ammo. It was even during the pandemic. You could shoot 100 rounds for $20. I'm just saying. But yes, it is starting to go back up. You're right. I have a couple thousand rounds. I'm not worried about it. Matt, go Michigan, love college football. All right. I got 2 minutes. I'm just kind of catching up on the final thing. So much better up. One thing about gun owners, they won't tell you where to get the good ammo. Well, the place I get it from is local to me. It's a place called Range Time, and they have pretty decent ammo you can get at a pretty decent price, and you can shoot there. Indoor, too, by the way. As far as online, yes, I have a source. No, I'm not sharing it along those lines. But yeah. Richard, you don't ride a Spitfire, you drive it. Daniel, Boulevard doesn't leak oil. Exactly. All my friends had Harleys. I had the Boulevard. I used to bring cans of motorcycle or the bottles of motorcycle oil and hand them to them. So as a joke, right? Every once in a while I would do that. Here's your oil for the day. And then my one buddy used to bring me boxes of rice because that's was our running thing. Well, long story short, one time we're out on an iron butt ride, right? We used to leave Albany, New York, ride all the way to the Canadian border, cross over in Rouse's Point, and come back down Route 7 through Vermont. It would be about 8 hours, give or take, 8, 9, 10 hours. We stopped and all that stuff. Well, anyway, as a joke, I said, here's your can of oil, right? We got up, we were about 2 hours up on the Northway, or on Route 9, sorry, in New York. And don't you know, he starts needing oil. If I hadn't given it to him, he probably would have burned up his Harley. But yeah, I loved my Boulevard. If you were looking for a really good bike, used, go find the Suzuki Boulevard. You cannot kill that bike. I used to have by the way, you're going to laugh because, I'm a big guy. I had a Honda Rebel that I bought in the 80s just for fun. Little 250cc. I called it my shit bike. I had 2 wives learn how to ride on it. I had 3 of my 6 kids learn how to ride on that bike. It got dropped so many times. Eventually, everybody outgrew it as far as they all went and got bigger bikes. I sold it to a friend of mine. She learned how to ride on it. Her boyfriend learned how to ride on it. She just sold it to somebody else, and she recently told me that bike is still going. It was an 84 Honda Rebel. God, by now it's got to have 300,000 miles on it. The thing just starts and goes. All right, guys, I have only a minute or so here. Just want to wrap up. So really good conversation today. The goal behind all this was to just kind of feel things out. Daniel, I had a Yamaha as a shit bike. Yeah, they're fun to have, those little 250s, especially if you're going around town. I think the takeaway for everyone on this really was, as you saw in the comments, for the most part, and I understand some guys are going to say they're happy when they're not, but for the most part, and I believe it, single guys are pretty happy right now. And I think that we've realized as men that we can do just fine on our own. Unfortunately, the ladies aren't quite there yet, and as far as seeing that. And I think it's going to shock and surprise them because, yeah, there's times it's tough to be alone, but there's, holidays being the classic one. But I think most guys are seeing that they're happy. And I would encourage any of you that are single, that are worried about like the holidays, and I'm going to actually do a live on this, probably not Thanksgiving week, but the week before Thanksgiving. I'd already planned this. The live is going to be about getting through the holidays as a guy, especially a single dad, and what I recommend guys do and that kind of stuff, because I know the hell that it is. Don't forget, podcast goes up Sundays at 11 Eastern U.S. All right, Maggie's going crazy behind me here. This week, Warren Farrell, Dr. Warren Farrell, the man. All right, I literally have all his books right here. I've had them for years. Is my guest, and we talk about a lot of different things. I consider him to be the leader of the men's movement. He wouldn't agree with me on that, but I do consider him to be the leader. He is why I do what I do. I want to call him my mentor, although he doesn't mentor me. He's a really good guy. And don't forget that I do the live each week, just as you're seeing here, from 4 to 5:30 p.m. I'm running a tad long today, but that's okay. The podcast name for anyone is Men Need to Be Heard. I was just going to get to that. The podcast is Men Need to Be Heard, same as my names on the various things, all right? It is available on YouTube, Spotify, Rumble now, Apple Podcasts, and a few of the smaller places, all right? The main primary one is go to YouTube. If you want to find it easily, go into my bio. For those of you on TikTok, you can see in my bio, I even have arrows pointing it. There's the link tree. Click on the link tree. You can go see past shows if you scroll down, but every week I put at the very top of that link tree the current week's show. This week's show, the one that's up now, is Ulysses Slaughter, who was the guy who went viral a couple months ago, and we talk about false allegations. Go check that out. That podcast is doing really well. Thank you all for watching. Thank you for those that gifts. A couple that I missed. Lazy Man, thank you for the lightning. I truly appreciate all of you. I appreciate your support. I appreciate you joining me. And, the more we talk, the more we get together, I think the better everyone's lives are. So I'm going to close it down with that, and I'll see you all next week.